Tony, we wanted to just take a look at your account and kind of see like where you are, where we kind of need to be. So it looks like you did figure out how to, add lights to the house. You did use a correct, measurement for this peak. I think that looks pretty good. Um, and this is a very similar depth to most of the house, not the whole house, but I think it works pretty well. Um, But when it comes to the garden bed is at a it's a different depth. It's much further forward in the photo. So we're not going to get a correct number for this garden bed if we're measuring it from the front, especially since we're going into curves, we're going around. There's kind of areas we can't see. In addition to that, the areas going back on the roof here are not going to be accurate because they look very short from the front. So one way we can kind of work around this issue is pulling up the bird's eye view of this house. So that's what we're going to do here. I was able to use the time lapse photo to help me with this one. So this is how it originally looked on Google Earth from the top. It looked really kind of weird. If you're on Google Earth Pro, you can just click the time lapse button, which is right up here. If you don't have Google Earth Pro, it's completely free. Just Google Earth Pro. You'll see Earth versions. Click on that and then select Google Earth Pro for desktop and download it. It's completely free. The imagery is a lot better. And if you have a weird version like this, you can actually click on the time lapse button and see other versions and scroll through time back in time to a version that might work better for you. So when I measured this, it was the 2021 version that worked better. I could clearly see the outline, and I can also see the outline of that garden bed a little bit more clearly as well. So I measured basically from here to here. It was 42 feet. I'm going to take a screenshot of this photo and we're going to upload it to the software. So if you don't know how to take a screenshot on a Windows laptop, it's just the print screen button at the top of your keyboard. If you are on a Mac, it's Command Shift 4. So again, that's Command Shift 4. And you're just going to basically pinch and pull, and then you're going to go upload it from where you have saved it in your screenshots. So I'm going to release right there. I'm going to go into the software. I'm going to pull up this, and I'm uploading it for you, so you won't even have to do this later. But that way we have this version uploaded of the top view. And I'm going to hit save. Well, almost save. There we go. Make sure I can see everything. Hit save. And then from there, it's going to upload into the software. And I'm going to select this aerial view. I'm going to put in my one known measurement that I measured, which was 42 feet for this line right over here. And this is going to help us get kind of all the areas of the house that we couldn't really get as well, including any straight lines on the house. So you had gotten your peak from the front, and that was great for this peak. But we could do anything that's a straight line from this view instead if we wanted to. So again, measuring that, putting this to the side, and you don't have to keep it right on top of the photo. You can kind of put it in the corner. And now I can really get a good measurement of this full garden bed. So let's just do single light. I don't know what spacing you're using. Let me see if I can see it here. It looks like you're using 15-inch spacing. So I can use my trace option right here, and I can click every time I have a direction change on the ground. So I'm following the outline of that garden bed. You can see how much of that garden bed we would not have been able to see from the front. That's a really long garden bed. So if you're doing that whole length, you would not have a correct measurement if we were doing it from the front side. So that's why it's pretty important, I think, to do it this way. So now we have that full length of garden bed. Just for perspective, that's already at almost 130 feet, just that alone. So that's going to give us a much, much more accurate number. The other thing you did was you kind of went back on these areas a little bit, right? So if I went back on these areas that recess into the house, you can see I've got like 1, 2, 3, 4 bulbs there. From that front perspective, I think you only added three right here, and there's actually would have been like 4. So it wasn't terrible, but it would have not been quite accurate, right? We can do the same thing for the other areas that were recessed. Let me see. You wanted to do a little bit going back here. So that would be, I think, maybe right here, possibly. Just trying to make sense of it from the top. Yeah, I guess so. So this is like another little area right here. It's kind of hard to see, but it would be right about there. Oops, took the wrong color. Like that. So there's that area. Anywhere where it's a flat line, like this whole line here, would be much more accurate measured from the top. The only thing I would really need to measure from the front would be my peaks, right? So if it were me, I would measure this line going this way. I would measure this line going this way. You have this little line here, here. Let me see where you want it to stop. Yeah, you kind of stopped at that corner anyway. And we're going to do the peaks from the front. And then, of course, there's a peak here. And there's another little peak here. So those two we can do from the front. Everything else we're going to do from the top. Okay. We've got all of that going on. That looks great. We can look at a quick estimate and see how much we've added thus far. And then I'm going to add a new one for just the peaks from the front. The reason why we do peaks from the front is because peaks go down into the photo from the aerial view. So it's really hard to get a really good estimation that way if you're measuring it from the top side. So peaks are always best from the front side. Make sure we're at the full length. There we go. That looks good. I'm pulling this off to the side. We don't have to keep it there. And now we can go ahead and add those lights coming all the way down the corner and all the way up here, right? You also had this little one that you were saying was right here, right? So I'm going to go all the way from here to here, all the way from here to here. I don't know if you wanted to go back at all. I didn't see a whole lot of recess there, so that's not a big deal. And this one, even though this is kind of forward facing, this is sort of off to the corner a lot. So I feel like this known measurement may not work out with this one because this photo is being taken at an angle. But just to give us a little bit of insurance and a little bit of safety on this, I'm going to actually add a second known measurement for just the width of the of this peak here. So it's about from here to here, 19 feet. And I'm going to actually see if there's a better version of this photo where it's a little bit more clear. Yeah, it looks like the house changed a little bit over time. Like they added on a little bit. No, it looks like that's the best version we're going to get. Okay, well, that's all right. We can still kind of get a sense of where this line starts and where it would end, like that. Okay, so we're going to just try our best on this one. I'm getting right around 22 feet or so from here to about right here. So let's see if we can make that happen and if it's going to work. But if I was to use the lights that are already in this photo, this is how they would look. I don't think it would be terribly off. It just might be a little bit more than we're getting. You could also use the width of the windows as a known measurement. But let's say we're just adding the peaks from the front. So I'm going to go to that, hold on, let me hit hide there. So we're going to do the peaks from the front. And then we are going to do everything else from the top. So a quick estimate from the top is 203 feet. Peaks by themselves and nothing else is 72 feet. So 203 plus 72 is 275 feet is about your total length for your entire project. That would be your total. Of course, what you're giving the client is just this pretty view from the front, right? I'm actually going to mess with your project a little bit. You would want these garden bed lines to look a little bit bigger, for instance. So I'm going to actually remove them from your design. And we're going to add other lights to make it look just a little bit a little bit bigger, a little bit nicer, and see if we can make that look really good. So also, I'm also noticing you have a lot of very tiny straight lines. Make sure you're using the trace function for curves. If you're not, then it's going to take a lot more time. Let's see here. Yeah, because you have a lot of overlapping lines. That wouldn't be happening if you were using trace. So reminder, for trace, it's just connecting all your clicks, right? So every time I click, it's connecting. So I just click every time I have a direction change. And that should do it. So that way you don't have all of these excess dots in different places that I'm kind of noticing. Here we go. We're already at 10 minutes, but I want to make sure you get taken care of. So we'll try to finish this off and just get it done at this point. So let's say you are outlining the garden bed and you want these lights to feel a little bit bigger in some areas and you need it to feel a little smaller in other areas. So we can add a new yardstick. So let's add another one. We'll call this, I don't know, 4 feet. I would imagine if I had to guesstimate, because this is just the pretty version, we're not even trying to measure right now. We did that from the bird's eye view. That 4 feet might be from maybe here to here, kind of like that. We'll just pretend like it's that and see how that looks. So when I use my trace function, now those lights are looking a lot closer, right? And then as I turn my corner, right about there, I would say. Yeah, right about there. We're going to start changing the size of the lights. So I'm actually going to go down to C7s, which I know is kind of a weird thing, but we're just going to use it anyway. And I can make it look like they're getting smaller. And when you use C7s to make something feel like it's getting smaller, you can increase or decrease the spacing in between. So the other thing we can do is just go into the other depth, which was this back depth, and then we can add the lights going this way. But you can see how tiny they are, which is why I normally wouldn't want to do that. So instead of doing that, we're going to just select these. We're going to add just a little bit, and then we're going to start turning the corner and using the C7s instead. And then right when we turn that corner right here, we're going to make them tighter. So instead, we're going to use 9-inch spacing here, even though it's not actually 9-inch, because as things get further away from us, they should look smaller, right? And then we're going to go even smaller with that, just to make it look pretty. You don't have to do it this way. Obviously, it's just rendering, right? You're just trying to get the message across to the client. But you could do this and make it kind of feel like you are going from really big to really small and so forth. So I'm going to add probably just one more right there, and then that's it. So now you have this look as if it's going off into the distance. It's really a beautiful house. The only other thing I noticed that I would mention is I noticed you were coming down on some of these lines, and I'm not sure if you meant to do that. So like that, I'd probably remove because there's nowhere to adhere that. It looks like it's vinyl siding. There's just no way you could add anything to it. If you needed to just make this line a little bigger, you could click on the line. You'll see these red handles on the left and right, and you can just extend it just a little to make it add to the area you want. But I'm done. It's already 14 minutes long, and I am so sorry. I just want to make sure that you had a full idea of exactly how much this project is likely going to be. Always add 10% anyway. This is going to be the pretty version of the front. When you download it, you just go to options and hit download. It's going to download with everything shiny without any of the numbers in the way. You can still swap out that background for the night sky if you want. Not that there's not a whole lot of sky showing in this anyway, so it's not going to show up very well because it's mostly tree. You're using Design 2 and Design 3 for the numbers. Awesome.